Hey everyone, so what if I told you there's this one theory, a single, elegant rule that could govern everything? And I don't just mean the cosmos, like stars and galaxies. I mean the very structure of our thoughts.
That's a huge question, right? Think about it. What if the laws of physics that shape entire galaxies and the mental processes that lead us to wisdom aren't just kinda similar, but are literally expressions of the exact same fundamental principle? So, to really get our heads around this, here's what we're going to do. We'll start with the core rule itself. Then, we'll see if it holds up on the grandest scale imaginable, the entire cosmos. After that, we're going to zoom all the way back in, right down to the blueprint of our own minds, and even explore how this could be a literal algorithm for thinking. You're going to want to stick around, because where this all leads, well, it's pretty mind-bending.
Okay, let's jump right in. Section 1, the core philosophy. So, what is this one rule for everything?
All right, the big idea is called the conciseness principle. And honestly, it's a pretty simple concept at its heart. It says that any stable system, and that could be the universe or your own consciousness, comes from taking this infinite, messy cloud of possibilities and compressing it down into the most efficient, non-redundant, useful structure possible. You can almost think of it as the universe's ultimate act of tidying up chaos.
And you know, this is a really huge philosophical shift. It takes these grand cosmic mysteries, things that seem totally unsolvable, and reframes them. Suddenly, they're not just things we can passively wonder about. They become optimization problems, puzzles that we can actually try to solve.
Okay, so for a principle this grand, to hold any water, it has to work with physics, right? That's the first test. So let's see how the cosmos itself supposedly follows this rule of conciseness.
Now, this theory makes some really specific and frankly kind of weird predictions. It says that for the universe to be concise, its expansion can't just be smooth. Nope. It has to happen in tiny, distinct steps. Imagine clicking through a slideshow instead of a smooth zoom. And if that's actually true, it should leave a couple of fingerprints behind for us to find. These weird spikes in galaxy data at regular distances, and a very unique wiggle in the cosmic microwave background. You know, the afterglow of the Big Bang.
And here's the crucial part. These aren't just wild ideas. Proponents of the theory have actually tested them. They dug into galaxy surveys looking for those redshift spikes. They ran simulations and compared them against real data from the Planck satellite for that CMB signature. And for each test, the redshift, the CMB wiggle, and even something called non-Gaussianity, they claim their model was a match. It passed.
So, if we follow the proponents, the physics seems to hold up. But now we get to the really big leap. The theory claims this isn't just about how the universe works. It's about how we work. It's supposedly the very blueprint for our minds.
Yeah, you heard that right. The central claim is that our brains are doing the exact same optimization dance as the universe. That the process of learning, of gaining wisdom, it's all just an act of information compression. It's our minds trying to find the most concise, efficient model of reality possible.
Okay, to make this idea practical, the theory introduces something called the conciseness cost functional. I know, it sounds super technical, but don't let the name scare you. Just think of it like a golf score for your ideas. The lower the score, the better. Every belief system you have has a cost, and your brain is just constantly, automatically, trying to find the one with the lowest possible score, the most efficient way of thinking.
So how is this cost calculated? Well, it's a balancing act between three competing things. First, you've got redundancy cost. Having a bunch of overlapping or conflicting rules is just messy and inefficient. Then there's loss cost. Ignoring critical information is, dangerous. And finally, there's decision cost. If a rule is so complicated that it takes forever to apply, it's basically useless. So according to this theory, true wisdom is just finding that perfect, elegant balance between these three. I know this all might sound a little abstract, so let's bring it down to earth with a practical example. Let's see how this cost of wisdom actually plays out in the real world.
Okay, check this out. Imagine a society trying to function using two conflicting ideas: pure unbending justice, which demands punishment, and pure unconditional mercy, which demands leniency. If you try to apply both at the same time, your redundancy and decision costs go through the roof. It's a mess. So what's the concise solution? The mind invents a new, higher-level concept: peace. In this framework, peace isn't just some feel-good virtue. It's a mathematically efficient solution. It's a pre-optimized concept that balances justice and mercy, and it drastically lowers the overall cognitive cost.
And we see this exact same pattern in things like governance. Take the trade-off between security and liberty. A policy focused on super high security, it's great at minimizing the loss cost from threats, but it comes at a massive redundancy and decision cost. Think of all the rules and bureaucracy. On the other hand, a policy of maximum liberty has low decision costs, but you risk a high loss cost from unmanaged threats. So the goal of good governance, what they call the concise equilibrium, is to find that sweet spot, that optimal balance where the total cost to society is as low as it can be.
Okay, so if our minds are constantly running this cost-benefit analysis on our own ideas, what does the underlying code look like? What is the literal operating system of the mind? Well, the theory gives it a name, the thought process processes, or TPP for short. Think of it as this universal, two-stroke cognitive engine. Its one and only job is to take a state of high entropy, which is just a fancy way of saying messy, disordered confusion, and drive it towards a state of low entropy, which is clear, concise knowledge. It's basically an engine that turns chaos into clarity. And this is proposed as the core learning mechanism, not just for us, but for any intelligent system.
And the ultimate goal of this process? It's pretty profound. It's about taking problems that seem impossibly complex, intractable, and reframing them so they become simple and solvable. There's a great analogy from computer science. It's like turning an NP problem, which is like being asked to find one specific grain of sand on an enormous beach, into a P problem, where you're just handed a map with an X marking the spot. It's all about making the impossible possible simply by finding the most concise path to the solution.
And this brings us right back to that core parallel between physics and cognition. You know, in physics, the principle of least action says that a particle will always travel the most efficient path through spacetime. Well, this theory argues our thoughts do the exact same thing, just in a kind of relational space. They follow the path of least cognitive cost. It even suggests that the kind of master equation that physicists dream of to unify all forces could have a direct parallel, a master equation that unifies physics, information, and even ethics. Which brings us to our final and most provocative thought. Where does all of this logically lead? What's the final conclusion?
It all comes down to the number one single principle: conciseness. The theory proposes that this one idea is the invisible thread connecting the very beginning of the universe, the Big Bang itself, to a single neuron firing inside your brain right now. It's a universal drive toward elegant, efficient simplicity.
And that leaves us with a pretty dizzying question to chew on, doesn't it? If our minds, our consciousness, the thing that makes you, are running on the exact same fundamental operating system as the universe, then what are we? I mean, really, are we just the part of the universe that finally became self-aware of its own core process?
And that really is the ultimate takeaway here. This framework suggests that wisdom isn't some lofty virtue we should strive for. It's the natural outcome of a physical process. It's a law of physics, as fundamental and as unavoidable as gravity itself. Thanks for diving into this with me.